In the autumn of 1219, as golden leaves danced through mountain air, the thunder of hooves echoed across the Afghan valleys. Genghis Khan's grandson had led his fierce Mongol army deep into foreign lands, conquering city after city with ruthless efficiency. But here, in this narrow mountain pass at Parwan, something unprecedented was about to unfold. The local Afghan forces had gathered, their hearts filled with desperate determination to protect their homeland from the unstoppable tide of conquest that had swept across continents. Prince Jalal al-Din Mingburnu stood like an eagle upon his rocky perch, gazing down at the approaching Mongol horde. Once a ruler of vast territories, now a refugee fighting for his very existence, he understood the gravity of this moment. His father's empire had crumbled beneath the Mongol assault, forcing him to flee across treacherous mountains with his remaining followers. Yet here, in this ancient stronghold, he saw opportunity. The narrow passes and steep cliffs would neutralize the Mongol advantage of speed and mobility. General Shigi Kutuku adjusted his grip on his saber as he studied the fortress before him. The Mongol conquests had never known defeat, their lightning-fast cavalry tactics overwhelming every enemy they encountered. Cities fell within days, kingdoms crumbled like sand castles. Yet this mountain stronghold presented an unusual challenge. The narrow passes would force his army into tight formations, negating their numerical superiority. Still, he had faith in the Mongol way of war, their discipline and ferocity unmatched across the known world. Throughout the night, Afghan warriors labored tirelessly to strengthen their defenses. They knew their survival depended on every stone placed, every spear sharpened. Unlike the professional Mongol armies, these defenders were farmers, merchants, and craftsmen who had taken up arms to protect their families. Their weapons were crude compared to Mongol steel, their armor simple leather and cloth. Yet their motivation burned fierce and pure. Behind them stood their wives, their children, their entire way of life that the invaders sought to destroy. As dawn broke over the valley, the Mongol army began its advance with mechanical precision. Row after row of mounted warriors moved in synchronized formation, their discipline forged through years of conquest. Each soldier knew his role, each unit understood its position within the greater strategy. The dust rising from thousands of hooves created an otherworldly atmosphere, as if the very earth itself was awakening to witness this clash. They had never faced resistance like this before, never encountered defenders who chose to stand and fight rather than flee or surrender. Prince Jalal al-Din raised his voice above the morning wind, his words carrying across the assembled defenders like fire through dry grass. He spoke of honor, of homeland, of the sacred duty they bore to protect their people. His voice cracked with emotion as he reminded them of all they stood to lose, of the fate that awaited their children should the Mongols breach their walls. The warriors listened with rapt attention, their hearts swelling with pride and purpose. They were no longer simple farmers or merchants, but defenders of their civilization against the tide of conquest. The Mongol archers stepped forward with practiced efficiency, their composite bows representing generations of military evolution. These weapons, crafted from layers of wood, horn, and sinew, could launch arrows with devastating accuracy and power. Each archer had trained since childhood, developing skills that made them among the finest warriors in the known world. They understood their role in the coming battle, knowing that their arrow storms would soften the enemy defenses before the main assault. The morning air grew thick with tension as they drew their first arrows, the metallic sound of bowstrings echoing across the valley. Along the ancient stone walls, Afghan defenders took their positions with trembling hands but steady hearts. Many had never faced battle before, yet here they stood between their families and certain destruction. They gripped their simple weapons with white knuckles, knowing that each arrow they loosed, each stone they dropped, might mean the difference between freedom and slavery. Behind them, their loved ones watched with tear-filled eyes, understanding that the fate of their entire community rested on these desperate hours. The old stones beneath their feet had witnessed countless struggles, but none quite like this. From the heights above, the full scope of the confrontation became clear. The Mongol army stretched across the valley like a disciplined serpent, each unit positioned with mathematical precision. Their formation spoke of years of conquest, of battles won across distant lands. Yet the fortress above seemed to mock their confidence, its ancient walls defying the military might gathered below. The narrow valley would channel their advance, making them vulnerable to the defenders' preparations. For the first time in living memory, the Mongol war machine faced a challenge that could not be overcome through superior tactics alone. Veteran warrior Battle Khan adjusted his grip on his bow, his experienced eyes scanning the fortress walls for weaknesses. He had ridden with Genghis Khan himself, witnessing the fall of countless cities. Each conquest had followed the same pattern: initial resistance, followed by inevitable surrender, then brutal efficiency in establishing Mongol rule. Yet something felt different here. The silence from within the fortress walls, the lack of surrender envoys, the visible preparations for a prolonged defense all indicated that these people intended to fight to the death. Such determination was rare and troubling. Within the fortress walls, an entire community mobilized for survival. Women carried heavy jugs of water up steep stone steps, their children following with armloads of stones for the defenders. The elderly shared wisdom about previous sieges, pointing out the strongest sections of wall and the most vulnerable approaches. Every person understood their role in this desperate gamble. The youngest children helped where they could, their small hands carrying arrows and sharpening tools. This was not merely a military engagement, but a fight for the very existence of their people. Mongol engineers worked with practiced efficiency to assemble their siege equipment, each piece representing years of refinement in the art of conquest. The massive battering rams, reinforced with iron and pulled by teams of oxen, had breached countless walls across Asia and Europe. Their catapults could hurl stones weighing hundreds of pounds with terrifying accuracy. Scaling ladders, carefully measured to match wall heights, would allow their finest warriors to assault the fortress directly. These tools had never failed them before, turning seemingly impregnable fortifications into rubble and surrender. In the war room carved from ancient stone, Prince Jalal al-Din weighed every tactical option with the gravity of a man who understood that defeat meant extinction. His commanders, veterans of previous battles against the Mongol advance, presented their assessments with grim precision. The fortress had natural advantages, but limited supplies. Their forces were brave but untrained compared to professional Mongol warriors. Every decision made here would echo through the coming hours, determining whether they would achieve victory or merely delay their inevitable destruction. The prince's hands trembled slightly as he traced the fortress walls on their crude map. Mongol scouts rode in wide circles around the fortress, their trained eyes missing nothing in their systematic examination of the terrain. They searched for hidden paths, weak points in the walls, areas where scaling ladders might find purchase. Every rock formation, every change in elevation, every water source was noted and reported back to their commanders. This reconnaissance phase was crucial to Mongol success, allowing them to identify the most vulnerable approaches before committing their forces. Yet each passing hour revealed fewer opportunities than they had hoped to find. Along the fortress walls, Afghan archers took their positions with weapons that seemed almost primitive compared to Mongol military technology. Their simple wooden bows, crafted by local artisans, lacked the power and range of their enemies' composite weapons. Yet they possessed something their opponents did not: intimate knowledge of every stone and shadow within these walls. They had hunted in these mountains since childhood, understanding how wind affected arrow flight and how light played across familiar terrain. Their arrows might lack reach, but they would find their marks with deadly accuracy. With a battle cry that shook the very mountains, the Mongol army launched their first assault upon the fortress walls. Thousands of warriors thundered forward across the valley floor, their disciplined advance creating a sound like the ocean itself rising in fury. Arrows darkened the sky in deadly clouds, Mongol archers unleashing their legendary volleys with mechanical precision. The fortress responded with equal fury, defenders dropping massive stones and loosing their own arrows in desperate defense. Dust and smoke filled the air, creating a hellish landscape where individual warriors became indistinguishable from the greater chaos of battle. Prince Jalal al-Din fought like a lion cornered in his den, his royal dignity forgotten in the heat of mortal combat. His sword flashed in the morning light, finding gaps in Mongol armor with the precision of desperation. Beside him, his warriors fought with the fury of men defending everything they held dear. They lacked the training of professional soldiers, but their motivation burned hotter than any military discipline. Each parry, each thrust, each desperate defense was fueled by love for their homeland and hatred for the invaders who sought to destroy it. The prince's voice rose above the clash of steel, rallying his people to impossible courage. Mongol climbers scaled the fortress walls with the agility of mountain goats, their ladders creaking under the weight of armored warriors. Each man knew that a single misstep meant certain death, yet they pressed upward with mechanical determination. Below them, their comrades provided covering fire, arrows, and stones flying to suppress the defenders above. Boiling oil cascaded down the walls like liquid fire, forcing warriors to abandon their ladders and plummet to the rocks below. Yet for every man who fell, another took his place, the Mongol will to conquer proving stronger than mortal fear. Desperate defenders worked in teams to lift stones that had weathered centuries of mountain storms, their muscles straining against the weight of survival itself. These ancient rocks, worn smooth by wind and rain, became weapons of war in defense of hearth and home. Women and children strained alongside warriors, their smaller frames finding purchase where larger men could not. Every stone dropped represented a prayer answered, a life saved, a moment of victory in an otherwise hopeless struggle. The Mongols below learned that even simple rocks, when dropped from sufficient height, could shatter armor and bone with equal efficiency. From the heights above, the full horror of battle revealed itself in all its terrible majesty. The fortress stood like a wounded beast surrounded by circling predators, its walls bristling with defenders who fought with the fury of cornered animals. Mongol formations ringed the stronghold like a steel collar, their disciplined ranks providing a constant stream of attackers. Smoke and fire marked where siege engines had been destroyed or where defenders had set fires to deny positions to their enemies. The very air seemed thick with death, filled with the sounds of clashing steel, war cries, and the screams of the dying. Young warrior Temujin stumbled backward from the fortress walls, his leg shattered by a stone the size of his head. His comrades caught him before he could fall, their experienced hands quickly assessing his wounds while arrows whistled past their heads. This was his first real battle, his first taste of the terror that came when steel met flesh and bone gave way. The other wounded received similar attention, Mongol discipline maintaining order even in the chaos of retreat. Yet as they pulled their injured comrades to safety, a troubling realization began to spread through the ranks: this fortress would not fall as easily as others had. A great cheer rose from the fortress walls as Mongol warriors retreated from their latest assault, leaving behind the bodies of their fallen comrades. The defenders raised their weapons in triumph, their voices joining in a song of victory that echoed across the mountains. Women wept with relief while children danced with joy, understanding that another wave of destruction had been turned away. Yet even in this moment of celebration, the older warriors reminded their people that the battle was far from over. The Mongols would return, and next time they would come with greater fury and more sophisticated tactics. Away from the chaos of battle, Mongol commanders gathered in somber council to assess their first real setback in decades of conquest. Maps spread before them showed every approach, every weakness they had hoped to exploit, every contingency they had planned. Yet reality had proven far more stubborn than their careful calculations. Their reports spoke of heavy casualties, failed assaults, and a fortress that seemed to grow stronger with each repulse. For the first time in living memory, Mongol warriors had been forced to retreat from a direct assault, and the implications of this failure weighed heavily on their strategic minds. Prince Jalal al-Din knelt beside his wounded warriors, his royal hands stained with their blood as he bound their injuries with strips of cloth torn from his own garments. He spoke softly to each man, offering words of comfort and praise for their courage. The greatest leaders, he knew, were those who shared their people's suffering rather than commanding from safety. His example inspired others to follow suit, healers and commanders alike working to preserve life in the face of overwhelming odds. Every saved warrior meant another defender for the walls, another chance to repel the next Mongol assault. The Mongol army demonstrated its legendary discipline as it regrouped from the failed assault, wounded warriors receiving immediate attention while fresh units moved into position. Officers walked among their men, checking weapons and armor, reinforcing the tactical lessons learned from their first encounter with the fortress defenses. The casualties, though significant by Mongol standards, did not break their spirit. Instead, they sharpened their focus and intensified their determination. Every warrior understood that retreat was not defeat, but merely a tactical adjustment before the next, more devastating assault. During the brief respite between assaults, the defenders worked with frantic energy to repair damage and strengthen their positions. Every loose stone was reset, every damaged section reinforced with whatever materials they could spare. Experienced warriors shared hard-won knowledge with younger fighters, teaching them how to identify Mongol climbing techniques and the best methods for dislodging attackers from the walls. Children scurried between positions like small spirits of determination, their presence reminding every warrior what they truly fought to protect. Time was their enemy, and they spent it with desperate efficiency. The Mongol archers unleashed their legendary skill upon the fortress walls, arrow after arrow darkening the sky like a plague of steel-tipped locusts. Their disciplined volleys fell with mathematical precision, each archer knowing exactly where his arrows should land to maximum effect. Defenders were forced to crouch behind the ancient stonework, their own arrows finding targets in the valley below with the accuracy born of desperation. This was warfare at its most clinical, where training and experience meant the difference between life and sudden, violent death. The very air seemed thick with projectiles, making movement a gamble with fate itself. The great battering ram shuddered and cracked as massive stones struck its reinforced frame, Mongol engineers working frantically to save their precious equipment from destruction. Years of careful craftsmanship, months of transport across treacherous mountains, all threatened by the defenders' accurate aim from above. Warriors pulled desperately at the ropes and beams, trying to drag the damaged siege engine to safety while arrows and stones continued to rain down upon them. Their efforts were in vain, the great machine splintering apart like kindling under the sustained assault from above. From the highest tower, Prince Jalal al-Din watched the Mongol preparations with the calculating eye of a commander who understood that survival depended on anticipating his enemy's next move. The disciplined reorganization below spoke of something larger than previous assaults, a major effort that would test every defender's courage and skill. He discussed his observations with trusted officers, weighing the limited options available to their desperate situation. Supplies were running low, casualties mounting, yet the Mongols showed no signs of the frustration that plagued their defenders. The prince knew that the coming hours would determine whether they had bought enough time or merely delayed their inevitable fate. The Mongol army returned to the assault with redoubled fury, their second major effort showing the tactical improvements born of hard experience. Multiple approaches struck the fortress simultaneously, preventing the defenders from concentrating their efforts at any single point. Improved siege ladders, reinforced against the defenders' stones, allowed more warriors to reach the walls than ever before. The war cries that rose from the valley floor carried the weight of wounded pride and renewed determination. This was no longer merely conquest, but vengeance for the blood already spilled in this mountain stronghold. Steel rang against steel as Mongol warriors finally breached the fortress walls, their superior training and equipment proving decisive in the brutal intimacy of hand-to-hand combat. Defenders fought with the fury of men defending their families, their simple weapons finding gaps in Mongol armor through sheer determination and desperation. Each warrior understood that retreat meant death for everyone within the fortress walls, driving them to fight with a courage that transcended mortal fear. Blood flowed across the ancient stones like rain, marking this as a battle that would be remembered in songs and stories for generations to come. Prince Jalal al-Din stood bloodied and exhausted among the last of his faithful defenders, his royal dignity abandoned in favor of pure survival instinct. The fortress that had sheltered his people for generations now filled with the sounds of Mongol victory, yet he refused to surrender the fight. Warriors gathered around him like faithful dogs, their weapons broken but their spirits unbroken. Each man understood that they faced certain death, yet something deeper than fear drove them to stand together for one final moment of defiance against the tide of conquest that had swept across the known world. The Mongol tide proved irresistible as their superior numbers finally overwhelmed the last pockets of resistance within the fortress walls. Discipline and training told the final tale, Mongol formations surrounding each group of defenders with the patience of hunters cornering desperate prey. Warriors who had fought with impossible courage found themselves isolated and surrounded, their weapons breaking against Mongol steel. Women and children fled to the deepest chambers of the ancient fortress, seeking shelter from the violence that had consumed their home. Yet even in defeat, the spirit of resistance burned bright and fierce. Prince Jalal al-Din fought his way through the chaos of defeat with the desperate energy of a man for whom surrender meant not just death but the destruction of everything he represented. Mongol warriors closed around him like wolves, their superior numbers making resistance futile, yet he pressed forward with the strength of pure will. His royal robes, torn and bloodied, marked him as the prize that would end this costly siege. Yet even as defeat consumed his army, the prince understood that his survival meant hope for his people and the continuation of resistance against Mongol conquest. With the fortress walls crumbling around him and Mongol warriors closing in for the killing blow, Prince Jalal al-Din made a leap that would become legend across the known world. His figure arced through the mountain air like a bird of prey, robes billowing behind him as he plummeted toward the rocks below. Mongol warriors cried out in frustration at losing their prize, their arrows falling short of the fleeing prince. The desperate leap represented more than mere escape, it symbolized the refusal to surrender even in the face of overwhelming defeat. Survival had become victory, and from this moment would spring new hope for resistance. From the heights above, the full cost of victory became apparent as Mongol forces secured their hard-won prize. Smoke rose from damaged sections of the ancient fortress, marking where desperate defenders had set fires to deny positions to their conquerors. Bodies lay scattered across the landscape like broken dolls, representing the blood price paid for this mountain stronghold. Afghan survivors huddled together as prisoners or refugees, their fate now determined by Mongol mercy. The fortress that had witnessed centuries of resistance now flew foreign banners, its walls echoing with the sounds of a new occupation. General Chinggis Khan walked among the conquered walls with mixed emotions warring across his weathered features. Victory had been achieved, yet at a cost that made even seasoned Mongol warriors pause in reflection. The fortress stood as testament to the blood spilled in its capture, every stone stained with the evidence of desperate resistance. His professional mind calculated the tactical lessons learned here, understanding that this battle would change how future sieges were conducted. Yet something deeper troubled him, a sense that they had won the battle but perhaps lost something more significant in the process. As Mongol warriors explored their conquered prize, they made a discovery that filled them with grudging respect for their defeated enemies. The fortress had been defended by barely a fraction of their own numbers, yet these simple warriors had inflicted casualties that would be remembered in their annals for years to come. Crude weapons, makeshift armor, and improvised fortifications had proven more effective than many professionally constructed defenses. Mongol veterans spoke among themselves of the fire that had burned in their opponents' eyes, a flame of determination that no amount of military discipline could entirely suppress. Among the conquered fortress walls, Afghan survivors faced the complex reality of defeat with varied responses shaped by age, circumstance, and character. Children clung to their mothers with the instinctive understanding that their world had changed forever, while elderly warriors accepted their fate with the dignity of men who had fought their final battle. Some captives showed continued defiance, their eyes burning with unspoken promises of future resistance, while others displayed the exhaustion of people who had given everything they had to give. Each face told a story of loss, survival, and the beginning of life under foreign rule. Before his superiors, General Chinggis Khan detailed the unusual circumstances of the Parwan conquest with the professional precision expected of a Mongol commander. His report spoke of tactical challenges, unexpected resistance, and casualty figures that would require explanation to higher authorities. Yet beneath his military language lay an unspoken admission that something fundamental had shifted in their campaign. The fortress had not merely been conquered, it had been earned through blood and determination in a way that previous victories had not required. His superiors listened with the attention due to news that would reshape their understanding of this conquered territory. In the shelter of familiar mountain peaks, Prince Jalal al-Din finally allowed himself to collapse from exhaustion, his body trembling with the effort of survival and the weight of defeat. Yet even in this moment of respite, his mind worked to plan the next phase of resistance against Mongol occupation. The leap from the fortress walls had been more than escape, it had been a declaration that the spirit of independence could not be conquered through mere military victory. From this wilderness sanctuary, new plans would take shape, new alliances would be forged, and the flame of resistance would continue to burn against the darkness of foreign rule. From the heights above, the fortress revealed its transformation from Afghan stronghold to Mongol military base, its ancient walls now bearing witness to a new chapter in regional history. Foreign banners snapped in the mountain wind while Mongol forces established their garrisons with the efficiency of conquerors accustomed to making distant lands their own. The same stones that had sheltered generations of Afghan families now echoed with the sounds of a different language, a different culture, a different destiny. Yet even as Mongol control settled over the conquered territory, whispers of resistance continued to stir in the mountain shadows beyond their reach. The Battle of Parwan would echo through history not merely as another Mongol victory, but as a testament to the power of desperate courage against overwhelming odds. Afghan defenders had proven that military superiority alone could not guarantee conquest when faced with the unbreakable spirit of a people fighting for their very existence. Mongol chronicles would speak of the fortress that cost them more than any previous engagement, while Afghan stories would celebrate the warriors who had made their enemy pause and reconsider the ease of their conquest. In this mountain stronghold, the tide of empire had met its first serious check, and the world had learned that some things could not be conquered through force alone.